The Dash 8.5. What was perhaps supposed to be the next technological advancement on Norfolk Southern operations, that came to an unfortunate end too soon. In the early 20-teens, Norfolk Southern saw that the cabs of their ex-Conrail standard cab Dash 8 locomotives were deteriorating and becoming more problematic with electrical issues. The maintenance facilities got to work, and soon enough, a Dash 8.5 rebuild program was possible. A total of 14 locomotives were rebuilt under this program, and were renumbered 8500 through 8513. Some of the unique features in this new rebuild design include an RLS wide cab that lived up to the FRA's crashworthiness standards, and cab signals, an electronic air braking system, an electric parking brake, and positive train control, amongst a few other features. 2 locomotives out of this small fleet were different from the rest. 8500, the first example of this small build, was rebuilt with an SD60E Crescent cab, whereas 8505 was rebuilt with a GEVO cab. And unfortunately, today, we're going to be talking about a wreck that involved the 8505, in a little wreck that I like to call the Wreck of Wauhatchie Pike. On July 14th, 2016, Norfolk Southern Train 164 was heading down the main line, going from Birmingham, Alabama to Chattanooga, Tennessee. The train was a manifest, consisted of 100 freight cars being pulled by a trio of ex-Conrail locomotives. Leading the way was Dash 8.5 8505, a wide cab Dash 8 8462, and an SD60 6716. Around 8:20 a.m., the train was approaching an area 6 miles out of Chattanooga Yard, an area called Wauhatchie Pike, and it was at Wauhatchie Pike where the single mainline track section would split into a double track. Just as the train was approaching the country road crossing just before the switch, an empty dump truck was heading down the road and began going across the tracks, but as the train moved into view, they saw that they would not be able to stop in time. The crew tries to stop the train in order to avoid an impact, or hopes that the driver would clear. Unfortunately, this prayer never came true. The train strikes the dump truck, and the locomotives are knocked out of balance by the force. The cab of the dump truck is sheared off the frame and launched into a ditch, where the car body is now thrown to the side of the tracks, now badly battered on its side. 8505 flips onto its left-hand side and skids down the line, and causes extensive frame damage, and the fuel tank is punctured and leaks, and luckily doesn't catch fire. The locomotive had derailed along a gravel path that was just adjacent to the switch. The other 2 locomotives tumbled down behind but suffered minimal damage, and the first 8 to 10 freight cars would also follow behind and derail. And the wreck had pretty much overall destroyed the switch and would have to cause it to be replaced. To many locals, this was just another example that some people are just too impatient to wait 3 to 5 minutes just to wait for a train to go by. And this is still very common in today's world. This isn't going to be the last time. And we won't see the last of this for many years to come. After the accident, some say that it was actually the design of the crossing that caused the accident because it was protected by a crossbuck and a stop sign at the time. So this could be a contributing factor. Not to mention that the dump truck driver may have just gone through the crossing because he was just such a big vehicle and didn't think he would have enough braking room to stop before the crossing. And this just goes to show, no matter how big the vehicle or how confident you are thinking you could be the train or how fast you're going, you'll always lose a race beating a train to a crossing. And I'm sure we can agree this is a valuable lesson that we all need to learn. 8505 was scrapped on site after the accident, whereas the other 2 locomotives were repaired and returned to service. The 2 following locomotives that would continue on Norfolk Southern for a while until both were eventually put into storage and then sold off when put up for auction. Both were sold to Progress Rail, as 8462 was sold to them in February of 2020 and has since been scrapped, and 6716 was sold to them in August of 2019, and its current fate today is unknown. The Dash 8.5 rebuild program had been canceled just months before the accident, citing numerous problems in the first of the fleet being built. The remainder of the Dash 8s that were to be rebuilt under this program were just eventually phased out entirely, with the arrival of the new ET-44 ACs that would be coming in next year that would overall replace them. The Dash 8.5s that would still continue service on Norfolk Southern for several years until eventually they were put into storage and Norfolk Southern had put them up for auction. Unfortunately, the entire fleet of Dash 8.5s was sold to Murphy's Recycling in Decatur, Illinois for scrap. What could have been the next technological advancement in locomotive operations, the Dash 8.5 rebuild won't be forgotten. And even though it's been 5 years since this accident, train versus vehicle strikes haven't been as all too common as they had been in the past, but unfortunately this is going to be a problem for many years to come. We got sponsored! Yeah! I'd really like to thank Rail Kings Miles for sponsoring this video. Rail Kings Miles is an online business that a friend of mine is starting up, where he customizes in DCC and sound installs, weathering, and custom detail work of your model train locomotives and rolling stock. Want a freight locomotive or a passenger locomotive to look absolutely new or dirty? Well, he can do this work for you. And you want your freight cars or passenger cars to look that way too? Oh, no problem. He can do this work for you. I've seen some of the stuff that he has done with this, and I would absolutely recommend him. If you're interested to know more about this online business, go to the email that's down in the description below, and he can tell you more about what he does and how he does it. And if you should feel the need to do this to your locomotives or your rolling stock, send him an email and tell him what you want done. And he can do this work for you, and I'm sure that you can leave with a smile on your face. And again, I would really like to thank Rail Kings Models for sponsoring this video.